In this video, let's explore 3 simple design strategies you can apply to make your slides instantly more beautiful, more professional, and most importantly, more effective. The 3 strategies are: 1. Think outside of the box. 2. Think big, bold, and bright. And 3. Design for 1 idea per slide. Now, these aren't random design tricks. These are principles used by graphic designers, instructional designers, and anyone who wants to communicate visually with impact. Public speakers' amazing ideas should be complemented by amazing design. I hope that's your goal. Let's head to the screen. The first strategy is to think outside the box, and by this, I literally mean going beyond these boundaries here, which most people treat as a wall. But in modern slide tools such as PowerPoint, Canva, Google Slides, the canvas extends far beyond what the audience ultimately sees. So what you can do is treat this like a designer's workspace and not this area like a cage. Your design ultimately does not have to end at the edges of the screen. Designers call this area right here the pasteboard or workspace. I want you to use it. Here you can store things like icons and shapes. You can extend images outside, right? You can see I have an image here, and if I go to this slide, you can see I actually have an image here that's half on the slide and half off, and this image here, and this is important for an effect I'm going to show you here in a minute. So again, we want to utilize this space. You can use this space to stage things like we saw here. I'm staging this picture to come in. You can use it to put some extra text that you may want to use for other purposes but don't want the audience or a screen reader to see. You can use it to move items off the screen. So if you record something in PowerPoint, it'll ultimately place this ugly icon on it, which doesn't look so bad here, but if I actually move it to this slide, and that's just ugly, it's getting in the way of this picture here. So if I just pull it right off the screen, it actually will still play. You would hear it in a video if I record a video. You would hear it in a live presentation if I'm projecting a slide and have the audio playing, but it does not visually clutter up anything. So that is what we mean by moving things off. What you can also do that's pretty cool is if you were inserting images, right? If I go and I say I want to add a stock image like a cutout person for training and I put this individual in, it just looks like clip art. It's not very pretty, it's not very visually appealing, and ultimately people place a lot of items on their screen, which gets in the way of the principle of like one thing per slide, but it just doesn't look nice. If I go into present mode, yeah, that looks not good. So if I take this off the screen and I pull this and make it bigger, and I now have his legs cropped off the side, when I go into that, I'm going to remove this so it's not playing, and I go into this slide, you can see it's cropped off. Already this is starting to look visually a little better. So that's ultimately why you want to think outside the box. It declutters the slide. Decluttering leads to better cognitive load for those that are paying attention, and it improves ultimately the aesthetic and comprehension of whatever you're trying to say. Here we know this is about PowerPoint, and we know it's about parallax effect. So that may make you interested in what that entails. The next thing you want to do is think big, bold, and bright. For example, here this text is pretty small, it's not looking very pretty, so I want to like make it really big. I want to make it bold, and I may want to make it bright, and it doesn't have to be like a sharp color, but maybe something to that effect. Now again, maybe I want to now add something else, like maybe I want to add a little bit of texture here, and I want to let's make this black. Let's actually send this to the back. Now that color's not right, obviously, but I want to now go change the color to white. Okay, that looks great. And notice I've placed this off the side. That was a strategic move because if I go and I demonstrate this, now this is pulled off. You can't see that black, and it comes right in and just looks very nice. It creates an effect that it's off the slide coming in. Because if I didn't do that, and I've seen many people do this, it would look something like this, which is obviously, it doesn't look too bad, but it's not as pretty as it could be. So again, you want to think outside the box, but you also want to think big, bold, and bright. So how big should you go? One idea is if you can't really see it from about 6 feet away on your computer screen, then it's probably too small. There are reasons where you may want more information on slides. I'll cover that in future videos. There is research that suggests that documents that move through an organization, you should actually put more text on them. But we're talking here about the public speaker who's on a stage trying to present their ideas, and it's the substance of their talk that's the most important, not the visual aid. But that is important to keep in mind. Slides are not a document, they are a visual aid to aid you in recall, but aid your audience in drawing attention. So let's go ahead and now combine these thinking outside the box and big bold effects to see what happens when we add some morphing or some motions to PowerPoint. Okay, so what you just observed is what's called the parallax effect in PowerPoint. I actually have a video, I'll put a link in the description, that explains how to create that effect. I even have a template that you can download, so do check that out. And as you can see, it's big, bold, bright colors, while also thinking outside the box, combining together to create a very cool visual effect that is going to look professional and also maintain the audience's attention. So now let's go ahead and turn to strategy number 3, which is design for one idea per slide. To illustrate this, you can see we have one idea per slide. Salukis everywhere. This is kind of telling a visual story as well. But if I come down here and let's say that this is my slide where I wanted to share information, there's more than one idea on this slide. In fact, we have really 3 ideas, obtain royalty-free pictures, place images. So one way that you can chunk out these to create more of that billboard effect that you're looking at in slide 1 is to create new sections. I can add a section that is now my main idea and then break those ideas down into separate ideas. And then here I can now bring in the big, bold, and bright, and I can work off the canvas to create effects like this. So I could have just an image. So if I wanted to demonstrate obtaining royalty-free images, I can just go to Insert, Pictures, Stock Images, for example, or I could pull from one from online, and let's just choose this one for the sake of that. And then I could let design help me out, and there you go. I'd probably want to still make this a little bigger, but I now have this one idea here. Now, if I needed to share the subpoints, I could now break those ideas down even further. So you definitely want to treat your slides more like a billboard, not a textbook. What would happen if someone was to come flying by? Could they get the gist of it very quickly? And if you have more ideas for a slide, you need to break it down as a section. Ultimately, by applying this principle, you'll have more focus, and focus creates beauty. Beauty is more about less, and less is not just more, it is also strategic. So those are your 3 strategies. Think outside of the box, which means use the off-canvas space like a designer. 2, think big, bold, and bright. That means clear, confident design wins. And 3, design for one idea per slide. Use these 3 together and your slides won't just be pretty, they'll be powerful tools for learning, persuasion, and communication. I hope you found this video to be helpful. I'll see you in the next one.